The problems SMEs in India are facing with their cash flow. They are not able to realize their money from their customers. As a result, they are facing the cash crunch and they're borrowing at higher cost. And the solution was suggested by RBI. And that solution was not practiced in India ever before. Banks are focusing on, can I become a fintech? What for? For acquiring the same customer. That problem is already solved by a fintech. Now, what is it that the bank has to look inward? Is the turnaround time. This is democratizing that you are not married to any bank, no bank is married to any customer, and it's a network. If you are enjoying what you're doing, even if you are failing in it, I would still call it being successful. Driving people to become successful, that's also success. People have to be made successful, and we are the support system for them.
Our guest on Uvacha is Sandeep Mohindru, founder of M1 Exchange. He's revolutionizing the landscape of MSME financing in India. M1 Exchange is processing an astounding $750 million worth of invoices every month. Annually, this figure is between 10 to 12 billion US dollars, underscoring the platform's vital role in the financial ecosystem. With M1 Exchange, Sundeep has empowered over 30,000 MSMEs, providing them with a platform for invoice discounting. M1 Exchange isn't just about numbers, it's about innovation and inclusivity. Let us join Sandeep on his journey on Uvacha. All right, welcome to Uvacha. We are here to unbox some patterns and unleash some perspectives. We have our second guest in Mumbai. So Shubhanga, you want to go ahead and introduce him?
It's a privilege. Sandeep, thank you so much for taking time out. So I have known Sandeep for like 7 years now. Sandeep is the founder, CEO, promoter of the Mynd group of companies, 2 companies, and of course we'll get to hear more about both M1 Exchange and Mynd Integrated Solutions soon. I just want to welcome you and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, both Saveen and Shubhanga. And unique thing about Shubhanga's relationship is every new year or every year he brings something new, and this being one of them. So one enjoys being engaged with him.
Great. So Sandeep, the format of this is going to be very conversational. So there are some things that we are very interested about your life journey, your career till now. And there are certain perspectives that Shubhanga and I may also share as you throw light on certain aspects that we ask about.
If you were my girlfriend, I would have been very happy to open my heart up.
I am thankful I'm not.
We didn't expect that as an opening line. Thank you, Sandeep.
But nevertheless, actually, it was interesting the way we started. I ended up kind of meeting Sandeep when we were in Yes Bank, when I was in Yes Bank, and he had just started M1 Exchange, and we were considering investments, and he, despite we choosing, otherwise, I think we've been in touch, and he's been a great friend now, and he's always available when required of sorts. So,
my pleasure.
Thank you for that.
Great. Yeah, and I think just connecting with you was really great for me personally. So thank you so much for being here once again, Sandeep. Thanks. So let us start with some basic background of how did you reach where you are, something about your childhood, how did you start off? Because we want to know what was the background you grew up in. And
I'm actually all a Delhiite, an Indian, and brought up in Delhi in Delhi Public School. Again, a school which has Delhi name in it. And my parents and everybody have shifted from Pakistan as a part of the partition. So, of course, they had to set their life from the beginning in India. But by the time I was born, 1971, so they were fully settled by then. I have always worked in that, or maybe the family journey or the history has been that it has always been a business family. And the capital availability in those days used to be limited in India, and so the business families manage within the limited means. So that's where we have grown, taking the risk, however, within the limited means. After working for 25 years, I have realized that when people ask me what's my profession, I say I feel my profession is more entrepreneurial than being saying that I'm a chartered accountant. So my profession is creating something, and I love doing that. Whether it's an organization, whether it's
a product
solving a challenge or a product. So, and that's what makes you an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
And when there is unknown on the other side, and you don't have a clear path how to walk.
Yeah.
Imagining, dreaming, taking baby steps, learning from them, then taking steps again. That's how I have grown all my life, and I love doing that.
So when did you start your professional career, so to say?
I have always been more or less an entrepreneur. I mean, finishing my chartered accountancy as a profession, and then somewhere so I started very early. I mean, along with my college, I started working. I had lost my father in the early days, I had to work and feed myself as well, and continue with my studies in the college and then in the CA days.
And manage the family expense?
Not family, my sisters were married, so it was only me and my mother, so two of us. And so college and CA days, I have done both. So you can say I started working when I was in college, which was the year 92, 93, 94, but I was studying.
So you would have worked with some other CA practices?
Yes, so I was training, I was also, 2-3 things I was doing. I was teaching, I was training, learning as a CA practice, and then studying. Okay. So 91 to 95 journey has been a little difficult, managing multiple things, earning for yourself as well as learning. So 96, 97, I did some jobs after I finished my CA, and then 98, 99 onwards, I had started doing consulting practice. And 2002, I formally launched Mynd Integrated Solutions, which is the first mothership of the business that I'm doing, which is more into shared services today. It has become it started like a service company wherein we were doing operations of accounting and HR for large medium organizations. Today, it has become more like a technology service along with the finance and HR and back-end services to the organizations. It has scaled up decently okay. It has its own professional team which manages it today, and I kind of retired from that organization. I continue to be the shareholder, manager, etc., board member, but I started a new venture called M1 Exchange in 2016, which we finally launched in 2017, and that's more of a product company. Wherein the aim is to help the society solve the challenge of SMEs, wherein the SME financing is a challenge. The realization of receivables by an SME organization in India is a big drawn task. Yeah. We started that journey in 2016-17, and believe me, in those days, fintech, technology, digital, these words were not there. And that's how the journey of the businesses started.
Okay, I just want to roll back a little. This is predominantly on your upbringing, because you said your family moved from Pakistan to here. So I'm sure you've heard some really exciting stories about what happened there, and more than exciting, it could be stories of struggle, how they had to leave things behind. We've seen parts of this in several movies and so on, but I don't know what you've heard. So anything that inspired you or helped you connect to your roots?
Yes, I mean, like any other movie story, I also hear from my father, from my grandmother, and from my father's sister. The wealth they had to leave behind in Pakistan, they could carry only one suitcase, and in that suitcase they had everything, and then they had to restart their journey in Delhi all over again. And the struggle, I was next to negligible. I mean, I was just born that time, 71, and they must have shifted in 65 around that time. So the struggle they would have already done quite a lot. So by the time we grew up, we have seen, like I said, limited means, but still business to carry on. And those days, business used to be, for my father, used to be one-man army kind of a thing. You know, one or two small support people, but not like an organization. Right. So that's how it works. However,
what was the business he was in?
He was in the business of books in the Delhi University area. He had a shop for selling books in the DU area, which became, as an area, it became very prominent over a period of time. And then when I lost him, I had to take a decision whether I continue with the business or I continue with my studies. I was in the college. So I somehow chose to continue with studies, and we closed the books business. I got an opportunity to work with my uncle in his small car workshop business during my college days, and wherein I realized the value of inventory building, wherein I realized the value of managing labor workforce. All that we learned more by doing it ourselves. No MBA classes were there in the college times. And that's when I say that more belong to a risk-taking business family. And so more from the grains it is there in the blood. That's how it is.
Great. Incidentally, Shubhanga and I also have some car workshop experience.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We tried to build a car when we were in college. We went to a garage every day.
After college?
During the holidays and all of that. So when everyone was sort of taking a break, we were like, okay, let's build a car from scratch, sort of a journey. Yeah, it was pretty exciting.
Different stories altogether. The first time we assembled everything, the car had 4 reverse gears, no front gear, because we had actually kind of assembled the differentiator in the back, completely opposite way. But that's how we have kind of also learned during our mechanical engineering days. But that goes back more than 20 years now.
Yeah, it was a great, as you rightly said. So I think there's an essence of I'm going to do this myself in your journey. And learning by doing, and learning management and business by doing things, right? That's what I could see in every aspect of the story that you've shared, which is great. And that's what led you to doing or building these fairly large businesses, I would say.
Yeah. So clearly, I mean, from where you started to where you are, we think you're successful. When did you realize you were successful? Or do you still think what is your definition of success?
Yeah, no, very good point. Maybe I don't think like that. If I'm feeling happy with what I'm doing, I'm successful. It could be every day. If somehow I start feeling tensed about doing something, challenge is something different. You may get tension because there's a challenge. But if you don't like the environment, if you don't like the profile, you don't like the respect, then it is being unsuccessful. If you are enjoying what you're doing, even if you are failing in it, I would still call it being successful. Driving people to become successful, that's also success, which is last 5 years that what I have been doing, wherein people have to be made successful and we are the support system for them. The definitions have also changed, the things have also evolved differently now.
The idea for, let's say, Mynd Integrated Solutions was 2002, you said you started, right? Where did you get the...
Very interesting question.
Yeah.
You see, in India, in 2002, nobody used to talk about, there's a word called outsourcing, okay? That was a Western world. Western countries have probably outsourced work to the Eastern countries. Right, because cheaper labor here and more expensive labor there. But within India, everybody wanted to do everything with their own, expand their companies on their own, hire accountants, hire managers, hire professionals on their own in big, large organizations. 2002 was a time in India when multinationals were just coming in. And General Motors was my first client, coincidentally.
Interesting.
And I met up with their CEO and their CFO separately in Delhi, and they had set up a small office in Nehru Place at that time as a starting office. And I was introduced by a friend, and they did not have people on the ground to do work for them in terms of their annual reporting, monthly reporting. Those days,
you mentioned pay slips as well.
Even pay slips. So even as you see in these multinationals, the reporting in those days used to be very rigid, month packs and all that. So they wanted someone to do this, and I started doing it with my own hands. And that became like a journey that
you actually started as an individual?
I started as an individual, then I hired a series of people who started serving this. And then the GM started expanding in India. GM brought Delphi brought EDS brought A.T. Kearney, and many such organizations came in. And we were the entry point for all of them. We were the initial first 1 or 2 years, we used to manage all their bookkeeping, all their HR processes. And that's when the concept started picking up in India. And more companies were coming into India, and that became our niche. that you don't need to create your teams and we help you do everything. And then finally we found our sweet spot in the growing organizations. We rided the telecom wave. We were doing back-end accounting for almost every telecom company in India. There were about 14, 15 licenses were issued by the government. We did accounting for all of them. We were the only company who had all the competitors' accounting data happening within our company.
Within the same firm, yeah.
Thereafter, because it was a high growth industry, followed by retail, followed by hospitality. I mean, today we serve almost 36 food brands. All their accounting happens with us. Whether it's American food brands, whether it's Indian food brands, and their back-end accounting happens in our organization. So like this, we've created sweet spots, and that's how the first organization.
So how did you stand out? I think the first few years was built more on relationships, right? You worked with a few people and they were also setting up. But let's say after 10 years of existence and so on, you're practically competing with the big fours of the world.
Or were you?
Yeah.
Actually, I think that's also a question.
Yeah.
So were big fours equally in play?
No. So fortunately, I enjoyed that 10-year period wherein our competition was with smaller CA firms. Less of Big Four. Big Four were very expensive and they could do small niche assignments. We were handling larger, bigger ones. When a telecom company comes into India, then it's a large network they have to do, and they're spending thousands of crores on creating assets and the telecom lines. So we were in that sweet spot. Having said that, now we compete with Big Four after probably 10 years, 12 years that Big Four have gotten into it big time. And yes, they are our competitor now in that space.
So how do you still stand out compared to those?
Yes, so we
larger
actually
brand
are very, very simple and very clear. It's a solution-based approach. It's not like back-end operations. Over a period of time, it has become, that's why I said specific industries which are high growth potential. So if you're talking about retail, then anybody and everybody who comes in retail, this is the way to do it. This is the standard module. They just come, plug and play, and we start serving them. Similarly, in the hospitality, the restaurant industry, nobody needs to create this back-end function. They just give it to us, and they worry about their sales, about their outlets, about their food menus, and about their pricing. The rest, everything in terms of cash collection, leakage, the accounting, the month close, the reporting, the compliances, everything is then. So we kind of come like a solution to a specific industry, and that solution gets created over a period of time. So, and that's where we stand out.
And so can you talk like some of the, so through Beta Plus and through my advisory side as well, I kind of end up meeting a lot of entrepreneurs who are in early stage. And most of them do start with either they've worked professionally somewhere or they may have done consulting like you started. But talk me through the transition of you doing things, because clearly as a CA you have understanding and experience of managing accounting for a company or a series of companies, but then building an organization that can do that is in a sense giving trust to people beyond you. How did that transition happen? Was it natural? Was it learned? And if there are any kind of mistakes, egregious mistakes that you want to talk us through, and what you don't want people today to be kind of doing it?
No, of course, very beautiful question. Must compliment. You've taken out the gist of my 20-year work. So when you're doing things on your own hand versus when you are taking help from your team who's doing it, first and foremost is the patience that the mistakes team is doing, you can also do those mistakes. If you were in their shoes, you would have also done, if not that mistake, something else. That is something which started to set into me when I had started building the organization. Many times some other managers within the system complained that you are giving a leverage to the managers to make mistakes and therefore you are not being hard on them. On the other side, I was struggling with my thoughts that if I was in his shoes, I also did mistakes in the first 5, 7, 10 years. So what's wrong in it if he's making a mistake? Either I train him that with the learnings that I have or the industry has, so that he can say that, okay, after learning also I made a mistake, then it's being stupid. But if I'm not giving him a training, he will also learn the way I have learned. So there has to be a fine balance. I'm not denying the fact that you entertain stupid mistakes also, but then that's the core of me when I am delegating or when we are building a team, that the team will also make mistakes. Having said that, one very important point is the depth of mistake that you can continue. I mean, you have to close your eyes at times and let the person make mistake and let him learn it. That's a better way of learning it. But then how much loss you have to evaluate and keep it in your radar, that up to what extent you can allow the loss or the impact to be have on the system. And in a way, that's what makes or breaks a relationship with a senior person in the system. If you believe that the confidence or the way the things have to be done, whether it is quality or whether it is culture, he has to handle with the other fellow peers within the system. If you are continuously grooming on him on that side, and if he is receptive towards that, then it is working very well. Then I would, to your previous question, then you are successful. But if he's not ready to change, if he's not ready to accept, and he's continuously increasing the hemisphere of mistakes, then he's also unsuccessful and I am also unsuccessful. And that's where someday or the other, the bond will break. So when you are delegating, this is very important. Yes, you, over a period of time, you learn how to make processes, how to build controls, all that will follow. And there are professionals you start employing them because you start feeling for them.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the journey I have also grown in.
Yeah. So I have had to kind of, in my professional experience, go through a couple of episodes of painful experiences of letting people go because of reasons of their performance rather than anything to do with how the business was doing. And it's a painful experience, having gone through it myself, because at the end of the day, we are humans, right? So we kind of recognize that you could easily be on the other side of, of the table in that conversation. Have you had to kind of take such decisions in your 20 years of...
Many, Shubhanga.
And how do you decide that, no, this is a person that you want to kind of stay with and course correct, versus this is a person that you want to kind of let go part way?
Right. So you see, over a period of time, in my early days, I used to think skill is the best. If he has the skills, he can do everything. Right. Over a period of time, of course, the books and the quotes say that skill can be bought, attitude cannot be bought. And I have learnt it, experienced it, that they are right. Skills can be bought, but if he is not willing to change, if he is not willing to put his best, if he is showcasing something and meaning something else, then the bond has to break. If he is diligent, if he is putting his hard work, yes, he's making mistake, then I simply look at it, can I use his strength somewhere else if he's not becoming successful in a specific role? He can be used in something else. And that something else exists within around me, very quickly I'm able to find out, okay, he's good for this, let's put him in this. If he's very diligent and he's committed to it, and he feels and says what he means. But if all these three are not there, then I put him in item 1 or item 2, or his strength or not his strength. It is bound to fail.
Basically, in Mynd Integrated Solutions, I don't think there is a radical idea behind it. It is more serving a need that you saw personally as an independent professional, and you built a system around it, and it's hardcore execution at its core. And I think that's where the challenge is of finding the right people and going full on the execution mode and building a large organization. And how did you decide to step back and hand your own baby to a so-called professional team which is running now and do something else? So walk me through that transition period, 2015, 16, you said.
Yeah, I'm also thinking, how did it happen?
Yeah.
There were partners who had worked with me and they grew within the ecosystem. To be honest, they were doing things better than me in that specific assignment. If I call that as an assignment, then I would say they were doing better work than me.
Was it like a
Are you
vertical?
saying it because you have to say it?
No. So when I say better work than me, meaning there is one side which is where the delivery has to be made, and there is one side where you have to innovate. Right.
Yeah.
So they were doing a better work than me on the delivery
side. Yeah.
You have innovated, you have carved out a process, you have to deliver it. I was seeing that they're doing a better job than me. So then my point was, okay, I mean, so like I said, my niche is taking risk, creating something new. So I started doing that within the organization. Now I stumble upon a white paper given by RBI, the respected regulator in the country, and that white paper talks about the problems SMEs in India are facing with their cash flow, which means that they are not able to realize their money from their customers. As a result, they are facing the cash crunch and they're borrowing at higher cost. And the solution was suggested by RBI.
Oh.
Okay. And that solution was not practiced in India ever before.
Was it an impractical solution?
So to be honest, I'm not from banking.
Right.
When I was reading the solution, I thought, wow, if this can happen, then this is the only thing which can happen.
What was the solution?
The solution was, if in technical terms, they call it factoring, which means you sell your receivables and you do it digitally. Okay, you don't do it manually, you do it digitally. That means you set up a platform wherein all the banks come of the country, all the SMEs come from the country, all their customers come from the country, and the SMEs put their invoices and banks bid to discount that invoice. So I was like, okay, if a bank can bid, what amount of liquidity can bring in? For me, it was more of a concept and it should work. And I put my hands into it and I dived into it. And I was blessed that I also got the permission from RBI as a license to start it.
And this was while
2016 M1
Mind,
Exchange.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but it was not called M1 Exchange then?
It was not called M1 Exchange. We started it in Mind only, and then I segregated it into M1.
Right.
Now when I go to the banks and I say that I've got this mandate, I've got this license, and bank says factoring has not worked in India, it is a failed product. My God. The whole...
Sorry, before we go there, are you in the habit of reading RBI papers? How did you stumble upon? Like, or is that the only paper did you read, or did you read 10 others and then this was interesting?
No, so it was a newspaper article.
Okay.
I'm a good reader of newspapers, and it was a newspaper Economic Times article, and I read it and I liked it, and then I went on to the RBI website to read it more detail because newspaper was very brief. And when I read it, I just factoring means for me means selling receivable. I don't bother about legal, non-legal, etc., etc. Failed in India, not failed in India. And then I had dropped my son for a tuition class, and I was sitting and waiting for him to finish. And on my phone, I was continuously reading for an hour about this article. And that's when I realized that this is reference with a similar thing which has happened in Brazil. And it was the only country in globe which had done this, and RBI had taken a feather from that.
Was it Brazil or Mexico?
Mexico, sorry, my mistake. So it was Mexico, and the RBI took a feather from that and wanted to replicate in India. And like I said, okay, we dived into it, but the bank said, this is a failed product. And
so you mean to say the RBI had this as a solution, but the banks were saying, no, it's not.
Yes, you can say that.
I just want to simplify this for some of our viewers who may not be from the finance background, right? So basically what you're saying is that if I'm a company and I have raised an invoice to my customer and they're paying me after 60 days, or I think back then 90 days was also the norm, I can show this to the bank that, hey, here is my customer A who's saying they'll pay me 1 lakh rupees after 90 days. I show it to the bank, and the bank will give me that amount of money as a loan with lesser insurance. And many banks will bid on who's going to give me lesser insurance, lesser loan at a lower interest rate. Am I right?
Yeah. So Saveen, everything is right.
Okay.
Except that I would change the word loan.
Okay.
Okay.
It's not a loan.
It's not a loan.
It is a...
Okay, that's a beautiful part of it.
Okay.
They are paying me back, let's say they're paying you back your money that has to be realized from your customer.
And they collect from the customer.
And they collect from the customer. Now, if customer doesn't pay or delays the payment, you are not penalized.
Okay.
Okay.
And at zero interest almost, or what was the interest?
No, so the interest rate, because of the bidding, has come down dramatically. I myself could not think of all that. Market driven in this market that we are in today, where the inflation is 5%, the interest rate today for an SME ranges between 7% per annum to 10% per annum. This is non-collateral, fully unsecured. Like I said, the risk is transferred.
Based on the invoice.
Based on the invoice.
Great.
And the quality of invoice matters.
The quality of invoice matters, meaning the quality of customer matters.
Right. That means if they're a Fortune 500 company.
Versus a non-Fortune 500
Correct.
company. And
So
if
you can actually be a customer to or a user of Threads platform.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. And let me also just add a small point here is when we talk about innovation, when we talk about, now I was again itching that I've done everything in M1, what to do next. And another colleague of mine in M1 then carved out a beautiful product wherein we have gone deep tier factoring. That means an SME who's selling his receivable to a large
Bank.
corporate, now that SME is also buying from another SME. So now on a large corporate, taking risk is easier. On the SME who's buying from another SME, taking risk is very difficult because the data is not available in the country so easily. And that's when we carved out a complete digital analytical credit analytics. We've rolled it out as early as July 23.
Oh, this is very recent.
Yes.
Okay.
And this has been done. First, we tried it under RBI Sandbox in December 22 to January 23 with 4 banks, Yes Bank being one of them. And they used our digital engine and for analyzing the credit of that small SME, then extending that limit to that SME or credit to that SME for his receivables or for his payables, rather, I would say, sorry.
Yeah.
And basis that, now we've gone deep tier. That means now, like I said in the beginning, be on the desktop of every company. We are actually working towards that direction, that not only large company, not only SME 1, tier 1, but also SME tier 2 has started to use M1 now.
Great.
And any customer stories where this has actually kind of impacted their business, their lives?
Shubhanga, this is treated like a God sent by them.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing stories. A milk collector, a person who collects milk from other milk vendors and then supplies to a dairy company. He is used to going and sitting in a dairy company's office and collecting his payment on a weekly basis, every Friday to Friday or every Saturday to Saturday. And he has to sit from morning to evening to collect his payment. That's a norm followed by him, and he dresses up well and on that day because he's going to company's office and he goes and collects that payment. Now on M1, the first time we did it in 2018 for him or 17 for him, he came down from Pune to our office in Bombay, and he reached earlier than when we opened the office.
Wow.
And then he was waiting, and then the office opened, and then somebody senior from Bombay office attended him, and he said, I have been told ke mere paise yahan se milenge is bari, and therefore I've come here. And we had to explain him that money will come to your account, but he was not ready to budge. He says, I am used to coming and going in the evening with a check in hand. I don't receive payments and yevo, and he could not believe us. But his invoice was discounted the previous night, and the next day morning his money had to hit. And about 12 noon, the money came into his bank account, and he had tears in his eyes because ever in his life, he's not gone back home with money in his bank account rather than a check in his hand. And by 12 noon. And thereafter, we kind of worked with him that he doesn't need to come anywhere
from Pune to
Bombay to collect his money.
Yeah.
Similarly, many such stories wherein there are small companies, niche companies one of them is a special electricity cable he's carved out for, and he's supplying to large cable companies. And he gets an order. He used to deliver only 10 lakhs worth of an order to a specific large electric company because A, he did not have money, B, that electrical company used to pay him in 45-60 days, so he did not have money to manage it, and he also was not very He was risk averse. He did not want to put all his eggs in one basket. So he used to give 10 lakhs to one company, 10 lakhs to another company. And that's how he was living his life. And these were his early days. And after that, his customer and he came on the platform. Today, in 3 years, he's now supplying to that electrical company 3 crores every month.
Wow.
Okay.
Because there's more cash flow available.
Yeah. So he's rotating it faster, and his confidence has gone up multifold because he knows the day I deliver it, next day morning money will come. So the risk is only for that night, wherein they're doing
How do SMEs discover your platform?
So one is, now the tables have turned. Okay, in the initial period, I had to work very hard convincing the companies that this is a product meant for you and for your supply chain vendors. They did not used to promote it to their supply chain vendors. They used to feel offended. Why should I promote it to the supply chain vendors? Why should I commit that I will make the payment return the payment in 60 days? Fine, it's good for my vendors, maybe good for them. But today, post-corona, companies have realized that vendors are more important. They are as good as partners. The supply chains have to be robust. It's a supply market than a buyer's market, right? So therefore, the companies are promoting it to their sellers. You come on M1 and they are after us, okay, you expand our credit limit. We want more suppliers to come onto this. So we make suppliers aware through the large companies, number one. Number two, of course, we engage with them on forums, through associations. And now that we've gone deep tier, we will be engaging with more and more through the associations.
So can I, as a small business, come to your website, create my profile and upload my invoice?
Oh, yes. So today we've reached a stage, because India has gone digital to very digital. In 10 minutes, a sole proprietor is onboarded on the website.
Every 10 minutes?
Every 10. So anybody can onboard himself within 10 minutes.
Okay.
If his customer is live, then 11th minute he can start putting the invoice.
Oh, wonderful.
If his customer is not live, then yes, we have to engage with his customer and then get them onto the platform, and then he can start doing it.
So what's the advantage for the customer?
Yeah. The supply chain has to become robust, which in Corona time, every large corporate realized it, number one. Number two, which is the most beautiful part, is actually when I said the cost of funding has come down for an SME who's normally borrowing at 15%, 18%, if he's good. If he's not good, he's borrowing at 24%, 36%. Now he's getting his discounting done at 7 to 10% per annum. So if he's getting his payment early by 60 days, he's going to what am I going to do as a human? I'm going to quickly go and relinquish my 24% loan or 15% loan, repay that at least for the 60 days, save that interest, right? So therefore I'm saving on my cost as an SME. And that saving, today the corporates have started to realize that saving can make him more competitive. So when he is giving a quote for the next order, they are both agreeing and realizing that the cost of funding to be built in the order is to be between 7%, 8%, which he's got in his previous payment.
Yeah.
And therefore he doesn't need to build in a cost as high as 15%, 18% in his order. So every large organization who is doing for his vendor payments, the maths is if they are enabling 100 crore on the platform, they are saving 1 crore per annum.
As a customer.
As a large corporate, their cost of goods sold, their cost of goods of acquisition has come down by 1 crore on every 100 crore. Because
and it also gives them more negotiation power.
Yes. So then their social, as far as the social angle is concerned, the corporate is also supporting his ecosystem.
Yeah.
Does the customer of my small business also have to log into your platform?
Yeah.
Do they get to see what is the value that they are able to add to the ecosystem?
Yes, everybody logs in. Everybody is able to view it.
I think it's like a tri-party agreement.
Yes, it's a marketplace.
Marketplace of banks, customer,
and
SME.
And SME.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Oh, great. So how is this product going? And that's what TRED stands for, right? So can you break it down for us what TREDS is?
So TREDS is Trade Receivable Discounting System.
Great.
Okay, and it has scaled up well in the last few years. First 3 years was a difficult run for us because It was a change management for the entire country. Like you asked me, why would a corporate do it? Similarly, why would a bank come into it?
Yeah.
Why does he want to bid? The banks used to say that it's very risky because I'm doing everything digitally. Tomorrow I have to go to the court of law. How will I claim my money?
This is pre-COVID, you're saying?
Pre-COVID.
Yes.
Number one. Number two, why should I bid? I mean, they're used to people having relationship and come into the branch banking and ask for money. Now, this is completely different. This is democratizing that you are not married to any bank. No bank is married to any customer. And it's a network.
Yeah.
So we had to do the change management. We had to go from bank to bank to bank and
get them
on board, make them feel it, make them agree it. And bank are huge organizations. So you have to work with risk, you have to work with legal, you have to work with business, you have to work with various departments to make them agree to a product.
And so how many banks are there today?
Today we have 55 banks. So in India, large...
And NBFCs?
NBFCs just started. So we about 8 NBFCs. So about 60 plus financial institutions are on the platform today.
Yeah.
And we are doing about 40,000 crore worth of receivable discounting for SME enterprises in India per annum.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And when we started in the first year, we did about 300 crores for the year. Second year, we did about 3,000 crore for the year. Touchwood, today we do about 3,000 crore a month.
You're still scratching the surface.
We're still scratching the surface.
Yeah.
So what is the market?
Yeah.
So deep tier is another thing that I was just mentioning about. So many places we are seeing that the customer may not come forward, but the SME is very interested. So, and it helps going down and serving tier 2 vendors as well. So that's one. And that gives us a leverage to create products around industries, whether it's agri, whether it's automotive, whether it's any other supply chain, because then you're going deep tier. So that's one. Second, we have just launched, in the process of launching supply chain finance, what we're doing in India at a global level from Gift City in Gujarat, which means that the exporters in India, when they're selling goods outside India, they could use the same service for their buyers outside India and get it financed from international banks or banks based out of Gift City. Yes, very early days. Again, the same behavior. Why should a bank come onto a platform? We have to answer all those questions to the banks in, let's say if we go to Middle East, we go to UAE, we ask the banks to come on board directly. Again, we have to go through the rigmarole, but it's a journey. Going to relive it.
Now, typically in a marketplace platform, they say you need to work on one side of the balance a lot, right? That build customers, then probably the product sellers will come on board. Here you have, I think, the 3 different parties. So first you went to the banks, then you went to the customers, or you went to the SMEs?
So we went to the corporates and the banks. SMEs
First,
will follow.
Will come on.
For them, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Right. So they will follow, and it's the corporates and the banks whose attitude or whose style of working had to undergo a change.
Yeah.
And do you think we have crossed the tip-over point for you not having to sell this, but they coming to you to buy it?
Yeah. So that tip-over point has started to emerge, wherein every CFO in a large organization, medium organization, awareness has started reaching him. It's very important that he's aware of it. Number one. Number two, I'm seeing young and middle-aged CFOs are very keen to adopt it. They look upon it very positively. So again, it's a generational change in the industry which is happening, and therefore the better adoption.
And also more tech savvy decision makers, I think.
Yes. And they find it as a good ground they have achieved also.
Yeah.
Because in their organization, they have made it completely digital in a way. The payment to the SME has been made digital, and they are saving money.
That's right.
So it's a win-win for them. And I have seen now the positive change, like you say, tip-off point, that they are open to listening and they're open to execution. They are coming forward on their own. Yeah. The sales cycle is shorter. It is there.
I think, very exciting. The product itself is very unique. And I like the fact that I've heard of, because I work with organizations on
taking an idea and making it executionable in our innovation journeys as such. But I think here you spotted a trend, took action on it, built a product, and built it to scale, which is fabulous.
No, fortunately, it's a journey, and one is enjoying the journey. So, like you said, what is success? As long as you're enjoying the journey, it's a success.
Clearly, SME as a space, even today at the Global FinTech Festival, there are a lot of conversations on how we are still in very early stages of solving for
SMEs.
Small businesses. Given your experience in trades, clearly accounts receivable is one part, but what are the challenges that are still kind of unaddressed in a sense? And given that we actually have probably the most vibrant fintech ecosystem across the globe, what are those things that you would want the ecosystem to kind of, I think, bring it to their conscious thoughts? I'm sure people are aware.
So one very important change which in the country has happened is digitalization. We are all aware, and it has helped thousands and lakhs of people as individuals. And now, like trades, it's helped so far 60,000 SMEs in the country. So they're getting their money, everything is happening, it's growing. What does a fintech brings to a bank? A fintech brings to a bank customer, technology. How can a bank use it? Bank can use it to bring speed. Bank always has the money, right? Can they acquire customer on their own? Yes, they can. Can they use fintech as a means to acquire customer? They are using. But where are banks focusing on? Banks are focusing on, can I become a fintech? Can I create a technology like a fintech? What for? For acquiring the same customer. That problem is already solved by a fintech. Now, what is it that the bank has to look inward? Is the turnaround time. That means if a case has been given to a bank, can he turn it around in X hours or days rather than in weeks or months? If banks spend time and energy on technology for inward looking challenges, whichever bank is doing it is growing very fast. Whichever bank is putting energy on, I'm seeing that, okay, I can also do something what a fintech does. Okay, then his energy goes in a different direction. So that's how it is.
I think having worked in like banks, both a digital bank, Oak North in UK and at Yes Bank, which is also, probably one of the most progressive banks when I joined as well. And having talked to people in other banks, I think the underlying architecture of how the bank systems are is what will dictate how their turnaround times and processes essentially are. The faster they're able to change their core systems, the better they're able to probably address, which is where I think Yes Bank has, I have had the pleasure of being on the other side. They're fantastic. And so is ICICI, I've heard. My ex-boss was from ICICI and he kept telling about some of the changes that they had undertaken. And now more recently I was hearing about HDFC and IndusInd and about the kind of progressive steps that they are taking to change the core infrastructure, because ultimately processes. So in product building, we keep saying, right? There are 4 pillars: value, viability, usability, and feasibility. I think where banks, in a sense, were a lot more stuck is on the feasibility aspect of it. Bankers are not devoid of ideas. I'm not going to be batting for bankers a little, but I think the feasibility aspect is where they hit big challenges. And I think, but some of these banks are like really, they have understood how to kind of solve the feasibility challenge far more efficiently. And I think that is thanks to digital banks that have kind of come up globally. And the technology architecture, the way in which they think customer experience at the architecture layer is what will define turnaround time.
Yeah, so I'll explain it with an example. Now, when we've gone deep tier, we are bringing credit of an SME to 55 banks, right? Now, each bank has to otherwise call that SME and take all the 50 points that we are creating for them.
Now which is readily available.
Which is now available as an information to 50 banks. Now, 50 banks may say that out of 25 may say, okay, this guy is not good for me because of my risk parameters, but 25 may say this is good for me, right? Now, whosoever finds it good can take a risk on that gentleman. Now that gentleman also gets an access sitting in any place in the world or in India, what I mean, he gets access to show his data to 50 banks.
Yeah.
Right? Now, we are working with the banks right now, how to make it faster to turn around and give a yes or a no. Right?
Yeah. I think what Sundeep is talking about is the direction of innovation the banks are going in. Yeah. Right? What you're saying is that they sometimes there's a chase to recreate what already exists, versus looking inwards to make their processes and decision making faster.
So if I am bringing, say for example, an opportunity worth 1,000 crore of an SME for a bank, for 50 banks.
Yeah.
Now who will run fast to turn it around will obviously grab the market share of 1,000 crore. But they, again, like you said, they have to internalize it, that what is the turnaround time I'm taking. That's it.
Great. I just want to switch gears. This was a great learning for me personally, because this is not my domain at all, but really interesting, really inspired by how you stumbled upon the idea and made it happen. The next thing is around funding as an approach. When you have an idea and one of your organizations are funded, one is not. So I think you clearly know why and how and everything around it. So
I think the question is also right. So one of the things that I tell to many entrepreneurs and founders that I do kind of have the privilege of meeting as part of my of Beta Plus is, not all businesses need to raise, but there is the media created glamour around,
funding,
wherein we celebrate fundraisers for whatever reason. But at the end of the day, I think what I would love for you to kind of touch upon is, A, to raise or not to raise. How would you kind of advise founders, entrepreneurs in your shoes? And B, if it is indeed something that requires external capital, what are the avenues that are there and whom should they go to and how should they approach?
Yeah. So to your first point, raise or not to raise, there's no right or wrong answer. It's anybody's choice, and it will depend on situation to situation. It also depends on his own war chest that he would have. I mean, just by me saying or you saying, if he commits that mistake, and a good idea can become bankrupt if not funds are not raised on time. So having said that, I would say that if you're starting an organization, you should be able to manage funding for at least 12 months in your war chest. If you have that in your war chest, then you should start. Many times I hear that I've started my journey and then I'll see on my way where will the funds come from. You can do that for the second year, third year, fourth year, but not for the instant 12 months, 15 months, 18 months. So one should always have, now it depends on person to person, how much what means he has, and he has to then decide whether he should do fundraise or not. That is one point. Of course, in the early business days, as much loan to be avoided. It's a general practice. Till the time you're not profit making, you should not raise loan funds. You should be taking more either equity funds like that, whether you do on your own or whether you borrow or you take it from the market. When I started M1, I had a war chest of taking me through 2 years. I was
that is the 2015,
16, right? So I had a war chest for taking me through 2 years. So therefore, in 2016, 16 actually early days we started, and 2016 and I started looking for funding.
Yeah.
And that's probably when I would have met you, because I knew that 2017 I would kind of run out of money, and as the luck would have had it, I ran out of money. The term sheets or the sheets that I had signed with 2 very large institutions in India, I was giving almost everything that they were asking for in terms of the terms and conditions of the term sheets. But somewhere in my heart, I was not very happy. In one of the engagements with the financial institution, he asked for some more terms over and above, and that's what was a breaking point, and I decided that I'll probably not go with those term sheets. And those institutions are super large institutions in India. So I was worried in my heart that if I say no to them, I hope I don't burn bridges with them in the industry. Having said that, I went back to my office from Bombay. My office is in Gurgaon. I went back and I collected my senior team, and I did express that we are going with this decision. and I am ready to contribute more money for another 1 year from my reserves and take that risk. But I'm calling off this term sheet. Very, very difficult decision at that time. Did that. And like you say, in the sense that one of the lines which kind of motivates me, and every time when I am about to lose, that's what I just sit back and say, that in my childhood days, there was a song that khud ko kar buland itna ke khuda tujhse पूछे तेरी रजा क्या है. So
sorry, tell me again. I am not a natively Hindi speaking, so
okay, it means that अपने आप को इतना polish कर लो, make yourself best in so much that God comes and asks you, okay, what do you want next in that domain? And as the luck would have had it, 1 year, not even 1 year, I had money for 1 year. In about 9 months, I got my second term sheet, and it was at 5 times more value to the organization and at the terms which were more conducive for the business.
For the founder and the team.
Yes. So it sailed us through, and then suddenly the whole thing changed into the problem of plenty. That too many funders came forward and too many people wanted to put money, and then it was difficult to say no to many of them. And then I came across, and that's being stupid, I came across a similar situation in 2020 when Corona hit. In December 19, we were going very well, and we thought, okay, we have money till December 20, and we will do the fundraise post March 2020 because the year end will finish and we will have a good numbers to reflect. March quarter is a year end quarter, good business, and here comes Corona and everything goes for a shut. And again, I know I only have money left for 9 months. And similar thing happened. Can you beat it? Similar thing happened. One of the investors in the market came forward. I was working from home. My son was sitting next to me. We were both sharing a same table, coincidentally. And this gentleman was negotiating with me on the laptop and negotiating terms that were not very conducive. And I literally had to, it was a conversation which did not go anywhere. And when I ended the conversation, my son asked, "My God, it is very difficult to sell your company to someone." And I was under...
How old is your son?
That time he was in his second year college. So 19 years old at that time. And then I had to take that risk, continue with going to multiple lenders, multiple investors. And again, as that line would repeat itself, that in about 6 months, that means we were nearing December, we get an investor who is invested at the previous value that gentleman was giving at least thrice of that. And again, on very conducive terms, and wherein the marriage happened within probably 20 minutes of a conversation. Again, through the video call, again sitting from home. And immediately, then again, there was a problem of plenty. And one investor, and then I had almost 5-6 of them. Having said that, the investor who gave me a tough time in 2020, he's invested again now in 2022, not in 2020, 2022 January, and 8 times the price at which we were discussing in 2020.
Wow.
So if you actually look at it, I was telling my daughter, I said, polish yourself so much that you become a pull factor than a push factor.
Yeah.
In anything and everything that you do. And the moment you become a pull factor, then things will follow.
Great thing to actually kind of take, right? Essentially, I think, was it in 3 Idiots? Where he, the role...
Excellence ke piche Baba. Yeah.
I think that also has stuck in my mind. It very closely resonates with what you say.
Okay.
Don't run behind success, run behind excellence is what I think, roughly, I'm paraphrasing, but
Yeah, you're right.
that's what he says in one of this one. But amazing.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to ask, are you always this calm?
Yeah, so that's another pivotal point, Shubhanga.
We've been talking on various occasions, more on professional setups, but I've always kind of seen you as a calm person, somebody who doesn't get hassled. He'll take business decisions as it is. So that's how I have come across you. But of course, I've not seen you.
Yeah, it's not in every situation. You've only seen me in good situations. But anyway, there are pivotal points in that as my career as well. There is my mentor called Meena Om. She runs an organization called Pranam. And about 10 years ago, I got a chance to work. I mean, work meaning engage with her. And then for almost 10 years, she has mentored me on meditation, on dhyan, and refining yourself as a person.
So you meditate every day?
I meditate almost every alternate day. Or maybe you can say as and when needed, I get into meditation. And she has brought a lot of calm and values to me, which are very important. I've practiced them in my professional life, in my personal life. They're bearing fruits for me. More from a prominent perspective, as if it is, like you said, if I used to get irritated. So I've asked her question like, if I'm in a rush, I get very irritated. And that's when she's told me that, just as an example, is that if you keep time and look upon it, that this work can be done in this much time only, you have no choice, then the irritation will start going off. So she's taught me small methods, but those methods really help me in looking inward and therefore refining myself again and again. And that's the basic mantra she's taught me.
I'm assuming she's not a professional coach or she's...
Yeah, so she's a spiritual leader, but I must compliment that she kind of reads you, she kind of helps you, handholds you. So I would say she is the most professional coach
that
though
you
she
could
may,
find.
Though she may not have done it very professionally in terms of her that
I get
kind
it.
of a course.
But I think also it boils down to you being open to being led by someone like that, right? So that's also an important aspect.
You are very right.
Yeah.
And that's very important. You have to be open to receive, and only then the giver can give you.
Fantastic. Any specific books that you would like to recommend that you have gone through, or any habits that for any upcoming entrepreneurs or professionals who are starting out or in the middle of their career?
So few things that I've learned, maybe through books or maybe through, one is of course, as much one can read Gita, and as many times you read it, as many times you'll learn and experience something new. So that's my favorite read. I mean, when it comes down to every few months, I again...
Do you know, by the way, Uvacha is inspired by
Gita?
Or rather, actually, not just inspired, copied from Gita.
Okay.
So Bhagavad Gita starts with Sanjaya Uvacha.
Right.
So that's where
this word has been
I have
very nice.
taken the name for podcast as well. That's
Right.
So
the mentor has actually made me practice, and I have done that personally, and I preach it, follow it, and share it with all my colleagues in the office also, is to be on the same plane on all three levels. Do what you say and be on the same plane, whether it's thought, whether it's your heart, whether it's your soul, whether it's your mind. On all levels, be on the same plane. If you're saying what you mean, then everything will follow. The receptivity from the other side will also be equally trustworthy.
Yeah.
So I would urge all people who are getting into, as you said, entrepreneurs, is to be trustful, trustworthy, truthful in what you say, what you mean. Everything else will follow. My view.
do you have entrepreneurs reaching out to you for help?
Yes, I have. I am one of the entrepreneurs in the NASSCOM, wherein now I'm in my fourth cohort, last 2 years, wherein all the NASSCOM members, the upcoming NASSCOM members, they take help, formal help through NASSCOM, of course unpaid, but more formal. It's a program that I run. Every alternate Saturday, I have to give them 4 hours, and it's online.
Wow.
It runs for about 4 months in a year, and NASSCOM selects the companies that have to be mentored or they have questions to ask, and then amongst a group of mentors, they are allocated.
So we also want to do something similar, and so we wanted to actually ask if you could actually give us 3 hours for 3 different entrepreneurs who might actually kind of watch this podcast, and we will kind of do the selection and send them to you.
No, my pleasure.
And where they feel they can actually gather more insights.
See, if we can be of help to anyone, of course, I mean, happy to participate, and that's why we are all spending time today. If this can be of any help to anyone, why not?
Absolutely. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much.
My
Thank you,
pleasure as
Sundeep.
well.
It was really inspiring and great stories to share. And personally very inspired by your journey. Thank you.
My pleasure as well. You've also invoked a lot of thoughts.
Well, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you once again.